Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I want to talk about just some of the better ideas I've had recently for some 9.8 comics to buy. And certainly I haven't done a video in a really long time, so hopefully everyone out there is doing great. But you know kind of the drill on the channel here. I like my sort of underfollowed, hidden gem kind of 9.8 comics, rather than just getting up here every video and going, yeah, you know, buy an Amazing Spider-Man 300 in a 9.8, or a Star Wars #1, or a Batman Adventures 12, or like an Uncanny X-Men 129, or even a 141. Like some of those no-brainer key issues are definitely going to be the best ones to invest in. But I always like to kind of look in the weeds, and these ones are definitely a little cheaper than you know, the big key issues. But it's worth mentioning, like if you are really serious about investing in 9.8 comics, you really just want to stick to those big keys. If we've learned anything in the last kind of 3 years of this crazy comic book market, it's that kind of like the big obvious key issues are hanging in there and doing really well. Whereas like anything that's kind of like a secondary key or somewhat speculative has just been absolutely obliterated as far as values, I would say. Yeah, certainly in the last like year and a half. So yeah, let's get into some of these kind of underfollowed 9.8 comics to consider, but just keep that in mind. Like, you know, I'm not sure these ones are going to be great investments or anything like that, but maybe there's some potential. So the first one is Detective Comics 27, the Facsimile edition, but I like the convention edition for this one, the foil cover. I was able to pick up one of these. But we'll just show a graphic here to make it a little easier. So, Detective Comics 27, first appearance of Batman. Pretty hard to get your hands on a real Detective Comics 27. This one came out, the original came out in 1939, so that's like just as like World War II was starting. Such an old book, really expensive. So some of the reprints have always been kind of appealing to me because I'm a big Batman fan. So Detective 27 in the kind of more rare convention foil edition, I think it is a pretty cool modern 9.8 to consider if you're a big Batman fan. There's 251 9.8s on the census, and 95.4% is the 9.8 ratio. Being a brand new book, you'd expect pretty much all of them to be graded 9.8. So I bought mine for $92 in an auction. Saw one recently sell for $105. And this was one when it first came out, you know, I was kind of interested in it from the beginning, and they started to get graded. They were selling in auctions right off the get-go for kind of 140, you know, maybe if you got lucky a little closer to 120. A few went over 150 as well, like when it first hit. But I always recommend, you know, you want to wait like 6 to 12 months when the new comic books come out if you're going to buy a 9.8. They really cool down. So that's what I did. I bought this one probably about 6 months or so after they came out. I did get mine for $92. The $92 sale was the one I grabbed. It wasn't an auction. So I think, you know, right now, you could probably even get it a little cheaper than $92. I think it's cooled down a little bit more. They're not really selling very good. Like there's been a few I've been watching and they've been up for a couple months, you know, not really selling, albeit a little higher price, like in that sort of 120 range, and all the prices in US dollars. But I think like around 90 bucks, maybe even $80 if you get lucky, or 75 or something like that. I think this Detective Comics 27 Facsimile edition, the convention foil version, is a pretty cool one to consider. And kind of a 2-for-1 on this one. I won't go over the census on the next one, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 color special. Both of these are kind of reprints, facsimiles. This is the other one that I think is a really cool option if you're a Ninja Turtle fan. I've kind of wanted this one. I've been watching quite a few auctions, but that movie had come out, and you know, some of them were kind of going for in this sort of, you know, 250. Even one I think went for 280 in an auction. But then recently I've been seeing, I think one sold for like 180 bucks. There's also in this color special one, there's the Error edition or the Normal edition. In the Normal edition, there's less of them on the census, but you see the Error edition a lot more. There's more of the Error edition on the census. So maybe the Normal edition is kind of the better one to get with less of them out there. But either or, I think it's kind of a cool one. The first, colored version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. Colored print, I guess, would be, of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. Those are the kind of two facsimiles that I got my eye on, and I was luckily able to get a Detective Comics 27 in the foil in a 9.8. Okay, next one. It's a Batman #6 from the New 52 era. This one is the first full appearance of the Court of Owls. Really cool book. Definitely, you get a couple cameos of the Court of Owls before this book, but in this book, great art by Greg Capullo, and you get all the, Court of Owl scenes that you really love. And yeah, this one's a pretty great collector item in a 9.8. It's hung in there as far as, like, most modern key issues have really been decimated, I would say, as far as values in the last year and a half. This one's kind of hanging in there. There's 292 9.8s out there, 36.6%, the 9.8 ratio, which is pretty good for, a modern book. I think this one came out in 2012. So I saw a recent sale. One had sold for $338. Another one I saw sell for $275. I would definitely aim closer to that $275. You might even be able to get this one, $250, maybe even cheaper, in kind of a stealthy auction. But yeah, if you're a Batman fan, this is probably my favorite kind of modern villain that's got potential to buy. Certainly after the year 2000, like I like Vengeance of Bane a lot in the 1990s, but after the year 2000, it's kind of this book and that Batman 635, the first appearance of Jason Todd as Red Hood. I think these are two pretty cool ones. And the first Hush is kind of a good one too. What is that, Batman 609 or something like that? First Tommy Elliott. But this one kind of stands out as a better 9.8. It's got a decent ratio for how old of a book it is. And yeah, so there's some potential with the Court of Owls there. I think, Court of Owls hasn't been in a big Batman movie. And if they came out in a Batman movie, I think it would be well received, and this book would probably do well. So Batman New 52, #6. Hopefully you get that one if you like that one, kind of closer to that $275 price, I would say. Okay, next one is a Cable 21. This one's the first appearance of adult Hope Summers. And yeah, Hope Summers is really involved in kind of the new X-Men storylines. She's kind of on the Quiet Council, I think it's called, of Krakoa. And she's involved in, like, mutants. Well, I think it's ended with the Sins of Sinister thing, but they used to be able to, like, resurrect any mutant at all times as long as they had the 5 mutants. And Hope Summers is a part of the 5. And she is kind of supposed to be like the messiah of mutants, sort of. But Cable 21, you get a great first full appearance of Hope Summers, as we kind of know her as, like, the redhead. So the first appearance of Hope Summers is in a book prior to this one. And it's really just, she's a baby, and, like, Cable's holding her at the end. I think it's just one panel. So to me, that's a cameo at best. She's a baby, like, it's not even really a first appearance. I think this Cable 21 is still really underfollowed, but is definitely pretty much like the first full appearance of Hope Summers. So I think it's a really cool one to consider if you're an X-Men fan. And I've kind of watched this one for the past year. It's an interesting book. There's a 25 9.8s and a blue label, one of 25. Pretty great. 41.7%, the 9.8 ratio. So of all the graded copies sent to CGC, 41.7% of them are 9.8s. The lower the better. The lower the kind of tougher it is in the 9.8 for that percentage. So I saw Cable 21 sell for $275. It was in an auction, and I was thinking of bidding on it, but just didn't end up doing it. Sold for $275 US. Interesting, there's one on eBay right now. It's in Canada, and it's 280 Canadian dollars or best offer. So that is like about $200 or best offer right now. So clearly, the range on this one is probably like 175 to 275. But there's only 25 out there. So it's a pretty tough book to find, so I can understand if, an auction kind of gets a bit of a bidding war going. But yeah, an interesting one, especially closer to the 200. I'm kind of tempted to really grab that one on eBay in Canada, but I'm not gonna. But I think if you're an X-Men fan, this Cable 21 is a pretty great one. First full appearance of Hope Summers on this underfollowed key. The next one is Marvel Superheroes version 2, number 8. This one I think is pretty speculative. This one came out in 1992, so it's not the Secret Wars number 8 that we all know. This one is the first appearance of Squirrel Girl. So Squirrel Girl is interesting. I think, you know, it's a really kind of simple hero that's admittedly pretty speculative, but, you know, I could imagine if they came out with like a Squirrel Girl movie, or she appeared in like a Spider-Man movie or something like that, this book would just absolutely explode. And yeah, for some reason, like, it kind of rolls off the tongue, like Squirrel Girl, sort of easy. So, you know, who knows if you know, if they ever give Squirrel Girl a push in pop culture, this one would certainly do better, I think, than it is now. But it's a pretty expensive one in a 9.8, but it's a cool one with some potential, I think. There's 517 9.8s in a blue label, and 24.7% is the 9.8 ratio. That's decent for a 90s book. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's a good 9.8 collector item, I think. Although 517 was more than I thought, but an early 90s book, there's going to be a lot printed, I think. So a few sales on this one, $370 US and $357 US. The $370 one was on My Comic Shop, and it was a newsstand. So I think, you know, that's a pretty great book in the newsstand at $370. But the direct version, I think you aim a little closer to $300. You know, maybe you can get it for like $275 or something like that on a bit of a lull here. But yeah, Squirrel Girl might be appealing to you. I think there might be some future potential there, but who knows? A bit speculative. But one that's kind of getting a good buck already. And yeah, maybe like a little under 300 is seeming like a pretty decent spec if you're into that. Okay, next one's a little more common. It's Teen Titans 44, or Tales of the Teen Titans 44. The, what is it, first appearance of Jericho, and the first time Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. This is one I've really wanted for a long time, and it did really well during kind of, you know, the COVID market when things were hot. Coming down in price now, and it's kind of a juicy price. I saw in an auction, makes me really want this one right now. There's 1,165 9.8s in a blue label. 18.3% is the 9.8 ratio. And in the auction, I saw a direct edition go for $317. That's just, you know, money well spent, I think, if you're a big DC fan, and, you know, first modern Nightwing in this one, pretty much. Yeah, I think right around $300 is a really good price to aim for the direct edition. A cool one to think about in the newsstand as well. I think the newsstands are kind of, you know, $400 to $500. I'd probably be willing to pay for a really nice newsstand, and I think that's probably about where they're going with the directs kicking around $300. But just a pretty big no-brainer key issue for around $300. I think this is one you probably want to get in there and buy on the pullback if you're a big Nightwing fan, or if you like that one. Okay, last one, kind of a 2-for-1 on this one as well, but we'll go with Spider-Man number 11 in a newsstand edition in a 9.8. Yeah, I think this Spider-Man number 11, it's kind of the cover homage of a Spider-Man number 1 with the black suit. I prefer this one to the Spider-Man number 1. There's just so many Spider-Man number 1s printed out there, and it's kind of the obvious one to go to. And that Spider-Man number 1 is, you just see so many of them, they kind of lose the mystique a little bit. Whereas Spider-Man number 11, just as cool, pretty much the same cover with the black Spidey. And I think in the newsstand edition, get kind of the tougher version of a Spider-Man number 11. I think is going to be a pretty great one to have in your collection, and hopefully should do pretty well over time. There's 258 9.8s in the Spider-Man number 11, so, you know, probably only, you know, 50 or 75 newsstand versions of Spider-Man number 11 out there. Who knows? But 64.2% is the 9.8 ratio. And I saw one recently sell on this one for $225. You wait in an auction, you might be able to get this one under $200. Like, you know, stealthy auction for $175 would be amazing for Spider-Man number 11. But I think that's the kind of range and prices here. Oh, my kitty's messing stuff up. So 175 to 225 for Spider-Man 11. I would go with the newsstand in this one. I got the direct version in a 9.8 on this one, and it was like $100, and they pretty much are like $80 now, and you know, nobody's really paying up for the direct version, but I think the newsstand's a better collector item. Okay, the 2-for-1 is a Venom Lethal Protector #1 in a newsstand edition as well. Yeah, these are two kind of early 90s newsstands that are still somewhat affordable. This is the first solo Venom comic book. So really well collected among Venom fans. And I'd recently saw one kind of pop up on eBay. I think it was on my comic shop. And it sold in like a day, the newsstand version of a Venom Lethal Protector. And I think it was $200. Yeah, it sold for about $200. So, you know, maybe you get a little lucky, get it closer to 175, but I think people are paying up to like 225 for this one occasionally. It's very similar to that Spider-Man #11 book as far as prices. But yeah, early 90s newsstands are kind of special. They're, you know, there were so many comics printed during that time, so the directs lose the appeal a little bit. But the newsstands are kind of the tougher versions, and I think these are two kind of early 90s newsstand keys in the 9.8 to consider. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Just a kind of a quick list of some underrated 9.8s that were catching my attention lately. And yeah, great to be back doing a video. Hopefully I get the chance to, you know, keep doing some more videos moving forward. Okay, well, thanks for watching as always, and I will see you on the next one.